Hey everyone, this is a focus segment from a longer, detailed tutorial where I take a deep dive into several major workflow features. If you'd like to watch the full video with all chapters and additional context, you'll find it linked above and in the description. Okay, let's dive in. Let's take a closer look at Transcript Search. This uses AI to automatically transcribe imported clips and allows you to search through spoken dialogue using natural language. Depending on whether you're importing new footage or working with an existing library, there are a couple of different ways to access this. Starting with new imports, if I click the Import button or simply press Command-I, the usual import window opens. If I scroll down in the sidebar to the Analyze Audio section, I can see a new checkbox labeled Transcribe in English. And yes, that wording already raises a red flag for anyone working in other languages, myself included. Just like Transcribe to Captions, this currently only supports English audio, which I find very unfortunate, and I really hope this changes soon. Hopefully that wording is already a hint at where this is headed. Transcribe in English very much sounds like something that wants to become a language pop-up at some point, or ideally an automatic language detection option. At least that would make a lot of sense. The option is enabled by default, but you can turn it off if you don't need it, or if you don't even have English audio to begin with. Doing so will also save you a few megabytes of unnecessary analysis data in your library. Since most of my own productions are in German, I'll be using some of my older English Final Cut tutorials for demonstration. I'll select them and hit Import. Once the clips are imported, opening the Background Tasks window shows Final Cut not only transcribing the audio, but also indexing it. That indexing step is what allows Transcript Search to work so quickly afterward. While that's running, I'll switch to an older library that contains voiceover audio which hasn't been transcribed, simply because this feature obviously didn't exist at the time. If I were to try to search here, nothing useful would show up aside from maybe clip names. So when opening an existing pre-version 12 library, it's necessary to manually analyze clips in order to use Transcript Search. To do that, I select one or more clips, then either go to the Modify menu and choose Analyze and Fix, or right-click a clip in the browser and select Analyze and Fix from the Context menu. The Analyze and Fix window itself isn't new, but below the familiar options, we now see the same Transcribe in English checkbox. This is how you enable transcription for older projects or for clips that weren't transcribed on import. In this case, I don't actually need the analysis, so I'll cancel out here. This is just to show where the option lives when needed. While that analysis would normally run in the background, my other library is already fully transcribed and indexed, so I'll switch back to that and we'll take a look at it there. And just to avoid any confusion, this isn't text-based editing. The transcription is used purely as searchable metadata. For actual text-based editing, you'll still need a third-party solution, such as Lumberjack Builder or Descript, because Final Cut doesn't offer that yet. To use Transcript Search, I open the search bar by clicking the magnifying glass at the top right, if it's not already visible. Then I click the magnifying glass on the left side of the search field to open the Search Options menu. By default, the search category is set to All. When the field is empty, Final Cut spells out exactly what that means right here in the search bar. It searches text, spoken words, and visual objects all at the same time. If I switch the category to Transcript and choose Includes, the icon changes and the placeholder updates to Search for Spoken Words, which is a nice visual confirmation that we're now limiting the search to dialogue only. Now I'll enter Adjustment Clip as my search term. That gives me 27 matching clips. Playing a few of them, clip. So in this case, the adjustment clip with its previous color correction to show the best. The timecode adjustment clip never goes away because it is not connected to functionality. Let me know what you think of the adjustment clips, or even confirms that the results are exactly what I'd expect, especially since all of these clips come from my Final Cut 11.1 update video. What's especially helpful here is that Final Cut doesn't jump to just the exact word or phrase. Instead, it selects the entire sentence or consecutive sentences where the term appears, with a bit of context on either side. That way you get the full thought and flow. instead of landing in the middle of a sentence and having to rewind for context. At this point, I could switch to list view to see the new relevance column, where Final Cut marks these results as exact. Conceptually, you can think of this as Final Cut's confidence in its own matches. Exact means it's very sure, while lower ratings indicate increasing uncertainty. What's especially useful, though, is that you don't actually have to switch to list view to work with this. If I switch back to Filmstrip view and look in the Clip Appearance and Filtering menu above the browser, there are now options to group and sort results by relevance right here without leaving Filmstrip view. This means you don't actually have to switch to list view, as I've seen suggested elsewhere, just to work with relevance. If I group by relevance, Final Cut organizes the results into collapsible confidence buckets, keeping the most certain matches together while the less certain ones remain visible and clearly labeled. So, if I'm not interested in lower rated clips, I can simply collapse those sections to hide them from view. Nice! Now let's compare that to the second option, is related to. Switching to this increases the number of results significantly. Sorting by relevance shows many results rated low, some high, but notably no exact matches. And honestly, clips from videos prior to version 11.1 can't really be related to adjustment clips in the way they exist today, because the feature simply didn't exist yet. What Final Cut seems to be doing with is related to isn't phrase matching at all, but conceptual clustering. It's treating adjustment clip less as a single term and more as two semantic ideas, adjustment and clip. Skimming through just a few of these 10.8 results, and I'll play one or two here as examples. And now I can just drag my other clip or clips onto the droplet. And step through the clip as before. Naturalized. After applying it, I can make further manual adjustments using the color adjustment effect. For pixels, I'll set the frame size to automatic. It's mostly picking up moments where I'm talking about adjustments in a broader sense. Manual tweaks, clip changes, quality adjustments, retiming, parameters changing over time. From a human perspective, those are absolutely related to the idea of adjusting clips. From a timeline history perspective, they simply predate the existence of the adjustment clip feature itself. And even beyond the higher relevance examples I'm showing here, Final Cut clearly grades the remaining results by relevance, which tells me it understands when it's making an educated guess rather than a precise match. This is definitely something I'll keep experimenting with. And if you've found particularly good or unexpected uses for is related to in your own projects, I'd genuinely love to hear about them in the comments. Switching back to includes, let's turn this into something reusable. Just like with any other search filter in Final Cut, I can click the small icon on the far right of the search field to open the search filter window. Since transcript, includes, and adjustment clip are my current criteria, all of these are already pre-filled as filter parameters. If I now click the New Smart Collection button at the bottom right, the window closes and a new Smart Keyword Collection is created in my event using those exact settings. I can name it Adjustment Clip, and from now on, just like with any other Smart Keyword Collection, any newly imported audio or video that contains adjustment clip as a spoken phrase will automatically appear here once it's been transcribed. Very powerful. Now here's a nice little detail. If I first select several of these results, then either clear an active search or, as in this case, simply exit the Smart Collection by clicking back on the event, Final Cut returns to the full clip view while keeping those selections intact on the original clips. That's a nice little workflow trick. From here I could favorite them, assign keywords, or simply press E to append just those moments directly to my project. And while we're on the subject, if I reopen the filter window and click the Add Filter menu, we can see that there's also a new Media Analysis filter option, which is easy to overlook but surprisingly useful. Instead of searching for content, this lets you filter clips based on what kind of analysis has actually been applied. Here I can specify whether I'm looking for transcript or visual analysis, and whether that analysis is available or missing. So, for example, I can quickly find clips that have been transcribed for spoken dialogue, clips that have been analyzed for visual objects, or just as importantly, clips that haven't been analyzed yet at all. This makes it very easy to sanity check a library and confirm that your import and analysis settings were applied consistently. Nice. So that was one chapter from a much larger tutorial. If you'd like to watch the full breakdown, click here. And here, there's another video YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If this was helpful, feel free to subscribe for more in-depth Final Cut and motion content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.